The burning question is, are you ready to become the best? Because today we've got Brad Sugars. He's the world #1 business coach. He's the founder of the business coaching profession. And he's going to share why it requires a multidimensional approach to development across life skills, business development, and wealth creation to have a chance at becoming the best and achieving the all-important personal and financial freedom. Let's do it. Let's welcome to your screen the main man himself, Brad Sugars. Are you there, Brad?
Well, g'day, James. How you doing?
G'day. This must be this is the third time this week, Brad. Me and you have been on screen.
Oh, well, we actually had some work to do this week, and we had to discuss what we're going to discuss. So there you go.
Well, look, we want to go into three topics here: life, business, and wealth. And look, you're already preaching to the converted here, because I've been following your stuff. This has been helping me for years. So,
well,
by the way,
apparently I've been teaching this for 30 years. So there you go.
Right. That was going to be one of my first questions. Where did 30x come from? Why not 20x or 40x?
Well, actually, it was just a play on it's 30 minutes a day for 30 days. So to get my 30 years life experience or business experience or wealth experience. But that's where the 30x came from. But a lot of the times I teach from a business perspective instead of percentage X. So get rid of the 10% thinking and think 10 times. Get rid of the 15% and go 15 times. When you make someone think multiply, they just look at you in the beginning and go, I can't do that. Like, it's not possible. I can't possibly 30 times my business. And I'm sure the McDonald brothers thought that too. But Ray Kroc came along and he didn't think you couldn't multiply. He thought all you can do is multiply, and so there's a difference in thinking. I think a lot of us are brought up to think of get one new customer, so we're very sales oriented, instead of 1,000 new customers, which is marketing oriented. Open one new office rather than 100 new offices. Open one new city rather than 100 new cities, or open one new country rather than an entire continent. We're not taught to think X, we're taught to think percentage.
Look, can we go on that to start with? Let's just put our shoulder on that for a second, because we've got the three topics. We're kicking off with life. So let's just think about my own development, or whoever's watching this right now, their development. And because I quite like it, it's like instead of getting 10% better, think about getting twice as good. I mean, I feel like a bit embarrassed to say twice as good when you're saying 30 times as good, but what it causes you to do is think differently, yeah?
Look, as a human being, you have to grow into whatever it is you want to achieve. So let's imagine you want to achieve a new car, right? And your money for that car is X versus Y. When you say increase double, why not double your income? Why not triple your income? What is it about people that they think, okay, I want to get a 10% raise or a 10% more? That thinking. But even when it comes down to the very basics of life, we have to understand that anything we want to achieve requires growth. It requires knowledge growth, skills growth, personal growth. That's what we're looking at. And so when in your life, what you want to do is be certain to be continuously growing. I was teaching a group in Ohio yesterday, and someone asked a question about achievement. And I said, look, the biggest thing, or the thing I'm most happy with in my life is that, who I become type thing. It's not about the things, it's about who you become. Your biggest job in life is to become the best version of yourself, not an average version of yourself, but the best version of you. And if you can become the best version of you, then you end up doing a great job.
What stops people becoming the best version of them, Brad?
Number one thing is themselves.
Yeah, I hear that. What does that even mean, though?
Well, so you take a look. I was watching that Netflix special, the Grand Slam, on the tennis one, right? And they really focus in on what's in your head type thing. What you see, most dreams are not destroyed by failure. Most dreams are destroyed by inactivity. I was watching a video the other day of a guy, and he held up, he said he's training in martial arts, and he held up a black belt and a white belt, and his sensei asked him, which one is the hardest one to get, the black belt or the white belt? And the sensei, and he said, oh, of course, the black belt. And the sensei said, no, it's the white belt. Starting is the hardest thing. So most dreams are destroyed by not even starting, by not even trying, by not even going for it, because it's like, I don't deserve that. I can't do it. It's not possible. It won't happen. And, the old saying or the old question of what would you attempt if you knew you were going to succeed? I hate the way it's worded most of the time. Most of the time it's worded, what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? That to me is a bad languaging around it. What would you attempt if you knew you would succeed? If you knew you would succeed at it, would you go into business for yourself? If you knew you would succeed at it, would you invest in real estate? If you knew you would succeed at it, then what are you looking at? And so it's the question of, do you assume you're going to succeed before you start? And that was, I guess, for me, one of the greatest things about starting my business in my teenage years and early 20s is that I assumed I would succeed. Later in life, people get more and more, oh, no, I don't think I can. Oh, there's too much experience.
Where did that confidence come from, Brad? Where did that assumption that you're going to succeed?
Naivety, I think.
Naivety.
Yeah, like you don't even know how hard it is when you're young. You don't even know.
Ignorance, hey?
I mean, the brashness of youth is a great thing. Keep it for your entire life. And going back to that tennis thing, when Rafa Nadal walks out on the court, he expects to win. He expects to win. When you go out every day, do you expect to win or do you expect to have a tough time? Again, teaching just yesterday, and this group in Ohio was coaching one of the gentlemen in the room. And I said, what is your goal today? And he said, my goal is this. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. And we went through it. And it's not true. That's not his goal. His goal has been driven down and worked all the way down to pay the bills. That's his goal today. He gets out of bed and goes to work with the goal of making wages, paying the salaries of his staff. And that's what we get driven down to over a period of time. We get driven down to mediocrity, driven down to that, never there was a great Goethe couplet, never bring your goals down to reality, dreams down to reality, for to set lowly goals is to cripple oneself from within. And that whole crippling of yourself by setting low goals is what happens in most cases. People go out there, instead of betting on themselves, instead of betting on their success, they bet on their own failure. They bet on mediocrity.
Yeah, the questions that you're posing, Max, put them back up again. A couple of these questions. I mean, seriously, it's getting under my skin here, Brad. So it's getting under everyone's skin. Do you expect to win every day? And this is part of the reason why you're the world's best business coach. We're not even on business yet, folks. We're just warming up. Do you expect to win every day? Because that needs to be the expectation. And
look, you go back to James. When you were playing badminton, right? You're a champion badminton player. Did you go out on that court and expect to win? Now, here's the thing, though, and this is what messes with your head. You go out there and you're playing against some guy who's brand new. He's only just made rankings. You've been playing for 10 years. You're a rock star. You walk out there going, got this guy. You're going to beat that guy. Then it comes out and you're playing the gold medal winner from the last season. Like he won the last Olympic gold medal. And you walk out there and what goes on in your head? And this is where, like in sales, I see this happen, where someone walks in and they go, oh, this guy's an easy sell, or this gal is going to be an easy sell. Or now I'm walking into the biggest corporation in the world and, I don't know if I can sell these guys. And that thought then becomes reality. Thoughts become things. And that's what happens. So that expectation of winning, you can play it in any field. But from a business perspective, if I go into a coaching environment in business, if I go into a sales environment, I expect to get that sale. I 100% believe the moment I walk in there, this person needs me, wants me, needs me to ask them to buy. They need it. I don't expect to have to sell them. They're already sold. The fact they're meeting with me means they're sold. I just have to make sure that it becomes a reality.
Now, look, you're setting the bar high. You're pushing me. I'm being challenged myself here. Everyone is in the audience. Have you ever been into a sales meeting and not expected to win?
Oh,
I reckon I have. I reckon
Maybe
I've
when I
done
was
it.
young, maybe when I
Yeah.
was young, maybe when I was young, I had that scenario of not,
What?
this. I mean,
Well, the fact.
I was selling the Vietnamese government recently. The oil and gas division of the Vietnamese government, a training program. They're a $3 billion a year organization, and and I just walked in there, and I knew they wanted. They're not meeting with you if they don't want you.
Brad, did you walk in with your ice hockey top on and your BizX cap on? I mean,
Actually, yeah, I was literally like this. So.
I remember once we had a meeting with one of the big banks over here, and it's like one of these things. And Brad Sugars, folks, he ready? He rocks up in his cowboy boots, his cap on, and his t-shirt on, and we're all like in these suits and shirt. And you know what Ian Crystal said to me? He goes, "Well, Brad's a rock star." I've never ever forgot that. But you did. You turned up and you owned the place.
Well,
That level of ownership and presence, super crucial.
But that comes from 30 plus years of working on myself, James. 30 plus years of reading, studying, development, working with my coaches, working with my counselors, and all the people that have trained and coached me. Meditation, it comes from chiropractic work, all of that releasing stuff. You don't get there by magic, you get there by working on you. Jim Rohn said it to me when I was 16, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And that doesn't just mean reading, it means the personal work, the fitness work. You can't be a peak performer if your body is not in a peak state. Your brain needs the level of oxygen it needs to perform at the highest of levels. Your body needs the water, your body needs that sunshine, that vitamin D. It needs all of those things to be there. Your gut has to be in a state of high levels, because that's where your happiness drug, the serotonin, all of these things come from. If your body's not in peak, don't expect your mind to be in peak. Your head and your heart have to work together, and they have to be in those sorts of things. So yes, that confidence comes from 30 years of doing this and succeeding and using all of those. But here's the key to that, right? I don't dwell on, I learn from the problems or the mistakes or the failures or the errors in what I do. So I have a lot of learnings in life, but I don't dwell on them. I don't make them think of, hey, look, I remember learning from some of the greatest cricketers ever. And I watched some of these greatest cricketers, and I said, what if you do a bad shot? So the next one is you start from it. It's a brand new, fresh shot. The greatest golfers in the world, they don't think about, oh, geez, I just shanked that one. I was watching a great golfer recently in an interview, and he said, I have 7 bad shots around. He said, so when I have one, I go, oh, that's one of the 7. Cool. Only got 6 to go.
It reminds me of that. I don't remember, you said this like blasé at one point, and you just quoted it after that. Never have a bad day, just a bad half hour. Mm-hmm. You see, that's a mindset. As soon as you said that, like, just hit hard. It's like,
yeah, don't let one bad experience ruin an entire 24 hours. Now, you might have a bad day. There are reasons in life to have a fully bad day. There's some reasons in life to have a fully bad week, because, people passing away, that's a big thing. But a normal thing that happens in life, give yourself a half hour and get over it, sort of thing. Build a bridge. Doesn't take more than a half hour, build that bridge. Build it and move on.
It's really nice
when you go for a walk.
It's almost like a get out of jail card, that, though, as well, isn't it? But it's only for half an hour. It's like,
yeah, you can whine and bitch and moan for a half hour. You got a half hour. Good. You got it out now? You done? Good. Let's move on. Okay.
On some of your 38th life, I've been through, studied it, embraced it all. So on some of that, on one of the videos, I think it's on productivity, you do say, on the odd occasion, you can give yourself a cheat day, which is almost like you get out of, it's a cleanup day. Yeah? It's just getting all your ducks in a row, getting the office started again, getting your inbox emptied.
Yeah. Look, James, we can't always be at peak performance. Some days, I work out, I eat well, but Sunday is a cheat day. I get burgers, I get whatever I want on a Sunday. It's a cheat day. My body's not going to die by having a cheat day. But ultimately, it is that consistent moving in a forward direction, that consistent thing. And that's why, I sit there and I start thinking about success. And success is not a overnight thing. You know, the whole 20-year overnight sensation stuff. Success is a gradual process. It's gradually getting better at being you. It's gradually becoming a better person. It's gradually getting better at stuff. So at some point it tips.
I'm going to ask your question to everybody right now, and I stop ponder it for a second because it got me, and it's still bouncing around somewhere on the inside there. What would you do if you knew you could succeed? Everybody, just think about that, and if you're brave enough, type it in the chat box. There's a couple of questions here that I want to ask you from some people in the audience right now as well, Brad. But before I ask their question, you know, the whole burger comment reminded me of Jim Rohn, actually. And I know he was one of your early teachers, wasn't he? He's part of the reason why you're here today, really. Now, because Jim Rohn said, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know, choose the Hershey bar, I think he says, or choose the apple. But if you only eat apples, you're going to be in trouble. So balance. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like the word harmony. I think Ivan Meisner put me onto that. He said, you know, sometimes it's harmonious. You know, there's times in my life when I'm not in balance in any way, shape, or form. There's time in my life when I'm 100% focused on business. I started reading a new book recently, and it gave me an idea. And I was up till 2 a.m, 2 nights in a row. There was no balance in that, but there was a harmony in my life. I definitely took 2 hours out at dinner to play with the kids, see my wife, hang out with them, do all that, and then come back to it. But 2 a.m, I'm still here typing away, having a great old time learning and studying and creating something new. And
I just love this right now, Brad, this moment right now, because this to me is you just sharing everything with everyone. And I just think it's every single sentence seems to be gold. Look, check out this question here. No one's been bold enough to share with us what they would do if they would only succeed, by the way. Fiona, you tell us what you would do if you could only succeed. Fiona's question is, when you have a 30x vision, what's your advice for getting the rest of the team on board with your vision if they don't share the same level of optimism?
Give them the chance to learn what you learned that got you there. So if it's like watching a video of Brad Sugars or of Lord Sugar or of anybody, if that's what got you that vision, give them the opportunity to learn with you. Because I think a lot of us expect people to come with us, even though they've not read the same books, not done the same thing, not that. That's why in our organization, James, you know, we do book of the month because I want everyone to move at the same speed. The more they all read the same thing, we know they're moving in the same direction. The second is keep sharing that vision, keep doing it, because in the beginning, when you have the vision, you don't have clarity of how to communicate that. And the more times you communicate it, and I always say, until you've communicated your vision about 100 times, you're not clear on how to communicate it. When I wrote the vision for Action Coach of World Abundance through Business Re-Education, I'd been discussing it with people even from stage many times. I didn't, and the languaging didn't come until I was sitting in a hotel room in Auckland, New Zealand one time, and the languaging just came to me. And I was like, perfect. I now know that that's the vision of my company. That's what my life is about, world abundance through business re-education. So, but yeah, keep sharing the vision, keep doing it. And the other thing is, Fiona, I'll tell you this, sometimes some of the people on your team, when you want to grow, they don't want to grow with you. Sometimes some of the people on your team, they want to stay behind. They don't want to go on that trip. So, you know, some of the times I want to go to a place and my kids don't want to go. Great, they don't have to go. But, you know, on a journey of life, a journey of business, sometimes you're going to need new people on your team that actually see the vision that you do.
Very powerful, Brad. Stevie G, Mr. Gaskell, one of your friends, massive challenge in the UK. What do you push opinion on this? So many positions. Don't worry, I'm not going to be salesy, let alone expect to make the sale. So sad when they clearly offer a great exchange of value. What do you reckon?
So let me position that in a certain way, right? So again, just yesterday, I was talking to a crowd of people in Ohio with Coach Heather Yates. And I said to them at the end of what I taught them, I said, you know what? You could easily go on and do this stuff yourself. You could take this, use it, do it yourself, and that'd be fantastic. And you would go off and probably have a level of success. But what if, and if that was the only option, that would be a great option. But what if there was another way? What if there was a way where you and I could work together, where I could buy in, I could help you with this. My team could be working with you week in, week out. What if there was a way where we could give you all of the tools, the valuable stuff, all of the knowledge that we have, and we could actually be there with you to help you build the business of your dreams, the business that you want, in fact, the business that you deserve? Would you like to find out about that if there was that way? You know, one of the things in the UK, James, and this, it's been interesting because, you know, 200 years ago, you sent all the fun people to Australia.
You say that every time, Brad.
I do, because it gets under my goat that my level of confidence in the UK is taken as arrogance. My level of confidence is taken in a negative way by some people, you know, and that it's just like, you know what? A good friend of mine from Texas says, if you've done it, it ain't bragging, you know, and I have the runs on the board to be able to talk the way I do and teach what I teach. And I don't do it from a negative place. I come at it from a place of wanting everyone else to succeed. What Steve just said there about, I don't want to be salesy, I think is a hide behind the fact that you're not a good salesperson thing. You know, if you're a great salesperson, my definition of sales is professionally helping people to buy. People want to buy. People want to invest. If I have a solution for them that is better than what they're doing currently, absolutely, I'm going to sell it to them, because it wouldn't be worse. Could you imagine, James? Imagine I had a solution for someone in their business, and because of my laziness, my lack of desire to be successful, my unwillingness to sell that person, 5 years later, I meet them and their business has gone out of business. They failed. They've gone bankrupt because I was unwilling to be salesy. That just doesn't play well with me. If I've got a solution for them and I know if they don't take that solution on board, the chances are their business will fail, which is the statistics, right? If they don't take on board learning, growth, and change, you know, I remember one bank study from 20 odd years ago that showed if a business owner does 3 business training courses, their chances of success are double someone who doesn't. Double. It's not rocket science, but yeah. So Steve, thank you for bringing that one up. I think that, you know, it's like the salesperson that hides behind social media. Oh, I did a social media post. Yeah, but did you make any phone calls? No. Okay, then shut up about social media and make a phone call. You know, don't hide behind those sorts of things. You know, I love selling and I love making sure helping people to buy. And I love doing it at such a level that.
Is there anything you don't love doing, Brad?
Washing dishes. I really don't love washing dishes.
For some reason, I can't see it. You know, I don't
know how many dishwashers in my house. There's like 7 or 8 of them. The machines, the dishwashing machines, and I would 100% put stuff in there. My wife looks at me and goes, "Just wash that." Nah, it's fine. It's going to run anyway. So, but that's something I don't like doing. But you know, years and years ago, James, I set a price point for myself, and years ago it was $20. When I was a young man in Australia, I said, if there's anything I can pay someone $20 or less to do, I'm not going to do it again in my life. I'm not going to do that work, because I would rather invest my time in things that make me real money than the less than. You know, the old business axiom of, you know, saving a wage costs you a fortune is so very, very true. And it's true in life, you know. And I remember a guy at a seminar one time tried to argue with me, but Brad, I really enjoy mowing the lawn. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you don't own a yacht. If you own a yacht, you know.
Well, Brad, I heard it was a jet ski, and now you said.
I've been on stage more than, you know, thousands of times.
It was Rob Pickering in the UK, you know, he said that one, the jet ski thing. I'm going to quote you again now. Here's a very famous quote. This one's really resonated. It cuts to the core. Sometimes you got to stop looking for answers and start making decisions. That is Brad Sugars at his best kind of quote. And that's what you did there. You made the decision. And is it as easy as being decisive? And this is my standard now.
Because I'm not sure any of it's easy, James. I'm sure it's simple. You know, there's Simple as in, yeah, make a decision. Easy, there's a lot of emotions that go into the easy question. There's a lot of
Yeah.
baggage and history and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that success is pretty simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. There is a lot of
Yeah.
work to be done, a lot of work on yourself, a lot of work in the world. Um, but
Well,
if I go back to that statement or the quote that you put up, it came from I was with a friend of mine one day, and he kept reading books and he kept going to seminars, and I actually used profanity with him. I won't here today, but it was like, will you stop learning and start earning? Start using what you already know. Just do what you already know. Like, stop. And it in my face, James, at the time, I'm thinking of that Bob Newhart skit on Saturday Night Live called Stop It. And if anyone hasn't seen that, go to YouTube, type in Bob Newhart, Stop It. It's about a 5-minute video. I'm pretty sure I played that video to myself like every day for a year or so just to get over some things. But it comes down to, at some point, and this is why coaching is so important. A coach makes you use what you already know. A coach makes you do what you already know you should be doing, but you're not. The big business has an advantage over small business. Small business has a distinct disadvantage. The owner and the CEO are the same person. The MD and the owner are the same person. A big business has a set of shareholders, a board of directors who demand growth, who demand profitability. That to me is something why coaching is so important, because we need someone to demand that we grow and demand that we do it, demand that we achieve our goals. Don't just hope we achieve our goals. Don't just dream of achieving them, but do the learning, do the planning, get it done, go to work. So when someone demands your growth, I think
Right. We're about to segue over onto business. I want to ask you one other thing first. Let me just acknowledge, big thank you from Fiona here. If I expected to succeed all the time, I'd have new client meetings booked every single day. Nice one. I've got a question coming in from John in a second. I'm going to ask you this question first. And it's that of relationships, because you've really solid experience on this. You've got some amazing stuff to share on it. Now, in that famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, one of the classics. It's not about fame. It's not about fortune. The key to success in life is deep, lasting relationships. How does one go about doing this? Not just in life, but in business as well. What's the key to developing long-lasting relationships?
Caring. Just care about the other person, actually I always say that a great friend is someone who does two things. They reach out and they show up. They reach out. If you go through your Rolodex, that puts a little age on me right there. If you go through your list of your friends and who are your friends that you need to, I even have alarms set on my phone to remind me to call my parents every week. Because otherwise you get busy and you'd forget things like that, but who are the friends? And when you get in the car, don't turn the music on, open your phone up and call somebody. Just get in your car, call someone, call them, say, hey, how you doing? Like being a dad, my eldest daughter is in Italy studying at the moment. My second eldest, she's in Alabama studying, but every day I make a call. Even or send a text, just do something just to let them know, hey, thinking about you. But a great friend reaches out. The second thing is they show up. If you've got a kid's birthday, right? It's your kid's birthday. That's important to you. I need to show up for that. And hopefully I need to either be the first one there or the last one there. I need to be the first one to show up so that they know I care, or be that last one that's there, helping them clean up at the end of the night, or put things away, or have that final celebration rum with them, and sit down with my buddy whose kid, or when my friends have a kid, and it bugs me that this doesn't happen as much anymore. When my friends have a kid, we have a cigar. We go out, we have a cigar, we celebrate that you had a kid. We sit down and we talk about this and the changes in your life. But great friends do that. And I think that's important in business and in friendship. I remember I look at our business and I sit here, we're going to have our 30th birthday at Action Coach. And one of the greatest things for me is all the people in Founders Club, which is everyone who's been with me more than 20 years. It's that to me is the sign of success, great long lasting relationships. So
amazing stuff. Reach out, show up. It's real, time, put some time in, put the effort in.
Also, I think, James, I remember being a young man though, and all I did was work. And I remember sitting down trying to plan my life at one point and realized I didn't do enough fun things. And so I created a category of my life where it was about creating fun events. And ever since then, I've always made it a point of owning a suite at a sporting event or something that there is. So always having a suite. So there's like just last night, I was at the basketball and it's the Sweet 16 basketball. How come? Because I own the suite. If I didn't own that suite, I wouldn't have gone to those games. But by owning that suite, I have 16 people there with me that, I catch up with them, and having that forced, I must interact, I must invite friends, I must do that. Those sorts of things. During COVID, we'd have Sunday dinner. My chef would cook Sunday dinner. We'd invite one family over every week to have a Sunday dinner type thing. It was one of those important things to just keep in touch with people.
Right, we're going to move on to business, and I've got a question here from John. I'm going to give you the first one. I'll go the second one, John. How do we balance a reasonable level of risk taking with ambition?
There is no risk with knowledge.
Knowledge
removes risk. If I'm going to jump out of an airplane and I have absolutely no knowledge of how to pack a parachute, no knowledge of how to do it, there's a massive risk. I'm going to die. Maybe I'll live, but most probably I'm going to die.
Yeah.
If, however, I've been to all the instructions, I've taken all the training, I've done all the things, and my first jump is with an instructor right next to me, or the instructor strapped to my back who's done 10,000, my risk is relatively zero. Risk is mitigated with knowledge. That's why the formula I teach is dream, goal, learn, plan. Do the learning before you do the planning. So learning and planning mitigates risk.
Beautiful, love it.
And then look at the business side of that, James. What do we teach in marketing? Test and measure. Don't go and put your entire $100,000 marketing budget into a campaign you haven't tested on a very small scale. Test it with $100 on Google ads. Test it with $100 on YouTube ads or Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads. Test it with $100 or 100 quid. And then once I remember years ago, someone asked, how are you a marketing genius? And I said, it's real simple. I write 12 ads, I test all of them, and I keep running the one that worked. Like, that's how I'm a marketing genius. The market tells me the customer is a genius at marketing. The customer knows if it's good marketing. Good marketing, they use it again. Bad marketing, they don't buy anything from it.
There's a point there, isn't there? The marketplace will tell you. It will tell you what's working and what's not. You better listen to it.
Very much.
All right, Brad, what's the key to long-term sustained success in business?
BizX, attend conferences, learn, study, grow. Your business will never outgrow your learning. You don't expect a sports person to outperform their training, so why would you expect a business to outperform its learning? Keeping learning and growing is the thing. Build your people, they build your business. I often tell the story of my dad really beating the living daylights out of me about business when I went to him as a young man and said, Dad, I can't find good people. And he said, you get the people you deserve. You're an average manager running an average business. You want great people. You got to become a great leader. You got to run a great company. Great people want to work for great companies. So, it comes back to, if you build the people, they build the business. And the first one you got to build is you. You got to build you. You got to become a great business owner. You got to become a great entrepreneur. Business owner owns one business and entrepreneur owns multiple businesses. There's a big difference between the two. But you becoming a great business owner, being a great hairdresser doesn't qualify you to own a great hairdressing salon. Being a great accountant doesn't qualify you to run a great accounting practice. You've got to be a great business owner more than you have to be great at the job of the business. Now, I will add one caveat to that. If your business is great because you are the rock star, like if you're Roger Federer, the tennis player, you don't stop playing tennis to become the CEO and hire someone to play the tennis.
Got it. Yeah.
A buddy of
Good
mine is
example. Good example, by the way.
yeah, a buddy of mine is the world's greatest landscape photographer. And when I met him years ago, he asked me to come in and chat with him about his business and stuff and help him out. And I looked at it, I said, hang on, you're the CEO of your business. Yeah. Well, where do you have time to go and take photographs? He said, I just don't have as much time to do the photography as I used to. I said, great. What we're going to do is we're going to hire a CEO to run your business who actually knows what it's like to be a CEO. And you're just going to go and take photographs. And amazingly,
you know what? I bet for people listening to this right now, I bet that's a bit of like a breath of fresh air. It's like, why don't I just get
you
someone
own
else to do
it,
this and do the bit that I love?
just because you own it doesn't mean you have to be the CEO.
Really, really cool points.
I'm not the best CEO. You know, I don't have the patience to be a CEO anymore. I'm an amazingly good chairman. Of all of my 11 companies, I'm chairman of the company, not the CEO of the company. Action Coach, I'm the figurehead CEO, but my chief of staff, Kate, actually runs the business, you know, and that's what happens. But we assume because we are the owner, we should be the CEO. No, that's not necessarily the case. You know, the greatest doctors in the world should not necessarily be the CEO of their business. They should employ a CEO to run it, and they can still be the greatest doctor in the world. You know, yeah, Roger Federer is probably the best example of that. You don't want to be that thing.
Do you know, I asked you the same question a number of years back, and it was a different audience, albeit, and you did ponder, and I'm going to verbatim, you know, say back to you what you said to me about that. You said, you know what? Yes, you've got to do the sales and marketing, but here's the key, James. This is the key to success in business. Get systems running your business and hire great people. Get the systems running the business and hire great. So I'm only bringing that back up because you said it so like casually. I had to take notice of it at the time. And dare I say it, very few businesses get to that point where they get systems running the business.
Yeah, look, systems have become more and more important these days because scaling a business requires the removal of humans from a lot of the processes in a business. If we look at Uber, all Uber did was remove the humans from the hiring of a taxi. A taxi used to have to call someone who then pass it on to the dispatcher who then called the people and that. Now it just removed that. We see McDonald's and a lot of food businesses moving down that road of you don't have to order from a human, you order on the app or you order on the touch screen type thing. We're removing and you know, the reduced labor force is making a lot of companies do this. I was working with a group of accountants yesterday, chatting, and this guy asked me a question. He said, Brad, you know, as an accountant, how do we grow when that human capital is so important to us? I said, well, hang on a second. You're hiring the human capital where? He said, well, I need accountants here in Columbus. I said, no, you don't. You need accountants anywhere in the world. You can hire an accountant anywhere. You need forward-facing customer service people here in Ohio, but you don't need accountants. You can hire people who are great with people to be here and be the relationship person, take them to dinner, take them to golf, and someone else can do the accounting. You can have a guy in Mexico do the accounting or a gal in Philippines or India do the accounting. You don't need that here in town. So stop limiting yourself based on geography. The world has gone past that these days. The greatest business thing to come out of such an awful, tragic experience such as the pandemic was that we virtualized the world 7 to 10 years faster than it would have done without that. You know? And so right now, if you're on a Zoom call with someone, do you care if they're in London or if they're in Alabama? You don't really care. You're doing business with someone. It doesn't matter where they are.
I did get a book given at Christmas, actually, you know, which The World in 2050, it's fairly recent as well. And it does quote a little bit of what you've just said in there. It's about the future of the world, and fascinating what you just said, how you just said it. Well, got a question here from Jen.
Yeah. No, if you look at the world, James, the world has to go through, you know, Europe is 1 billion people, Africa is 1 billion people, the Americas is 1 billion people, Asia Pacific's 4 billion. So there's going to be a shift in the world. There just is. You know, Rome lasted 500 years as the head of the world, and the US is sort of, you know, the UK had its period as the head of the world, and the US is running its period as head of the world. We'll see what happens. You know, I don't think we'll be alive long enough to see the next major superpower, but we'll see. We'll see. The world's an interesting place.
Jenny Vidaz, the great Jenny Vidaz, might I add. At what point in business would you put a CEO in place? It's a good question.
The moment you ask the question is usually the time.
Why?
Well, if I look in the mirror and I ask the question, do I need to lose weight? The fact that you're asking the question means you need to lose weight. You know,
all right. So
the fact that you're asking the question, when people, like when there's, is the stock market too high? The fact that people are asking the question, is the stock market too high, means it's probably close to being too high. When should I put a CEO in place? The moment you start thinking, you know what, it's probably time I put a CEO in place, is about the right time.
Which comes back to that first question.
We have to listen to our intuitiveness. You have to listen. That's what meditation is all about. Meditation is about quieting the brain so you can actually get answers out. We're so busy putting input in that we don't give our brain any quiet time. That's why most of the great ideas happen just as you're falling asleep or when you're in the shower, because there's no input coming in. Your brain actually finally has a chance of, oh, hey, what? You're quiet? Let me give you an idea that you've been thinking about for a long time. You got to listen to your intuition. But also you got to plan it. You know, rule of thumb with humans is if you can afford, in business, is if you can afford half their wage, they'll make the other half up for you.
Maybe put the success test against that as well, Jenny. You know, it's like, if you knew you would succeed, would you do it? Would you put the CEO in place, or wouldn't you?
You've also got to look at time maps. You know, when you map out your time as to what time you're investing on doing certain things, that time map will give you a very good indication as to whether you're investing your time in the highest paid things for the business. You know, what are the things that make the business most money? And I was chatting with a gentleman last week, and if I can be blunt, he kept doing $10 an hour tasks in his business, and he wondered why he wasn't making any money.
He didn't make that decision that you made all them years ago about the $20.
The thing was, because you can't expect to make more money than the hourly rate of the task you do. You know, if you're doing
that, isn't it? I mean,
you got to do owner's work. You got to do owner's work, not employee work. Employee work, if you use leverage, my definition of leverage for everybody is do the work once, get paid forever. Employee work is do the work once, get paid once. Manager work is do the work once, get paid long term. Owner work is do the work once, get paid forever. So if you're doing employee work, then yeah, you're doing employee work. If you're doing manager work, you know you're doing manager work. If you're doing owner work, then do owner work. And of course, in the beginning, all of us have to do a lot of employee work in the beginning, but gradually we build ourselves up and we build the business up so that we are doing more manager work and more owner work.
Brad, what are the biggest mistakes, in your opinion, that people are making in business right now?
The biggest mistakes?
Yeah.
I don't believe we have long enough for that question. Number one, too cheap. Number one is that they're too cheap. They haven't raised their prices enough. They don't put their prices up well enough because they're not good at marketing and sales. They're too cheap. Number two, not investing in human capital, not investing in people. Number three, growing too slow. They don't get on a growth path. People always ask, if you did it again, how would you do it differently? And I said, it would have gone faster. You know, the self-doubt stuff in the beginning did slow me down. You know, it doesn't matter how good you are. But
the experience is, you know, that, you know, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and the blueprints and all of that. It's like, once you build a business to $1 million, even if you lose it, you can build another business to $1 million because you've already know how to do it. So second time round, you can definitely go faster. You know, what I'm thinking there is that reflection though, isn't it? Like, to have that realization at the end of the year, or, you know, when you do the purpose session, I sat through 2 days of purpose with you, and it's like the importance of doing that every year does make you think, right, speeding up this year.
Yeah, look, when you sit down and you build a life built on purpose, you actually sit down and determine, what is my purpose? What do I want my life to be about? What do I want it to look like? When you actually plan your life, and that's, we do that over 2 days, it makes you think very differently than someone who's just coming along for the ride type thing. So
there you go faster, invest in people, put your prices up. When you said put your prices up, you did follow it with the marketing comment. Now, a lot of people think pricing is, yeah, I've got a pricing problem in my business. And I learned this from you, Brad. You go, no, you haven't. You've got a marketing problem.
Yeah, why is it that Ralph Lauren can charge X for a polo shirt that's charged, X minus 100 for, do you know what I mean? It's marketing. Marketing creates the price point of everything. So there's a quality thing involved in it, yes, but there is a marketing aspect to it 100%. When you go and look at a Bugatti Veyron, a Bugatti, is it that much better than a Lamborghini? No, it's not that much better. Then why is it 3 times the price? It's a limited type thing. There's a limited availability of it. That's just part and parcel of it. So.
We've got a couple of questions here. Let's just do some quick fire round. Max, if you hire a CEO, is there a risk of getting involved in employee work rather than owner's work?
Yeah, but you also are choosing at that point. Like if I am the world's greatest engineer, like let's say I am an actual rocket scientist. Let's imagine I'm an actual rocket scientist and I'm the best rocket scientist in the world. I should be focusing my entire life on being the best rocket scientists. The fact that I own the company doesn't mean I should be CEO. I don't want to employ amateur rocket scientists to be, no, I'm the genius. Use my genius for that thing. That's what I'm saying. That's the caveat to it. Now, most businesses are not built on a rock star. Most businesses are built on someone who thinks they're a rock star. One of my clients in Australia many years ago, he was the #1 hairdresser in the country. #1, best hairdresser, won all the awards. But his business got so much bigger when he stopped cutting hair. Just because you think you're the best at it, and of course, we all think we are the best at what we do. No one can, and this is the term that kills most businesses, is no one can do it as good as me. Yeah, you're right, because you haven't trained them to do it as good as you. You haven't helped them you haven't built systems so they can do it as good or better than you. And even if they can't do it as good as you, 100 of them doing it at 80% of as good as you is better than you doing 100% of the work. So we've got to keep at that.
We've got 2 more quick fire questions. Then we're going on to some wealth creation, folks. This is Gavin Wall, the legend. Where do you do your thinking time, Brad? Do you have a special place or time set aside to think?
Mostly during exercise. Yeah, I like to do 2 things at one time. So I like swimming. I do a lot of swimming, and the great thing about swimming is you're just with your thoughts. So
when you shared that with me, actually, it's like, it just makes your life. Is that one of the things that makes your life easier or simpler, Brad? Because to me, that was more efficient.
Yeah, I don't know. I just find when my body is moving, my thinking is better. When I'm walking the dog, when I'm doing that. And sometimes you've just got to stop putting the headphones in when you go do that. You got to stop doing that. Like I love skiing, snow skiing. And one of the greatest things about skiing is you're just thinking all day. There's no, and I see people put headsets on and that sort of stuff skiing. And it's like, no, that ruins the experience of being in your head. Riding a motorbike, I don't do it anymore. I got 5 kids, but the greatest thing about riding a motorbike is you're just with your thoughts.
How many hours a week exercise do you do?
Usually about 5 or 6.
It's quite a bit. It's more than a minimal exercise program, that, folks. There you go.
Well, if it's not about the amount of time. As you get older, the intensity reduces, but the time increases.
As long as you're enjoying it. Yeah. Jenny Vidas, she's come back. She said thank you earlier on, by the way. I love the need for speed. I missed acquisition now. What's your biggest tips on growth by acquisition?
Firstly, read my book, Billionaire in Training, about how to acquire companies. Growth by acquisition. The biggest challenge is culture. So the thing that you have to do in that first 100 days in that new company is instill the new culture, instill the new way of doing things. The cultural shift is, every time I've ever bought a company, shifting the culture has been the #1 thing. And usually to do that, some of the people in that company have to leave. And they'll self-select. They self-select. As soon as you start talking about the new vision and the new way and where you're going and what you're doing, they raise their hand and say they're not interested. You know, they don't raise their hand by going, hey, I'm not interested. They raise their hand by being jerks, by not doing work, by gossiping in the back room, by doing all of those sorts of things. And they need to move on. You know, I've generally found somewhere between 10 and 30% of any workforce needs to move on when I buy a company, because they're not willing to embrace the new. You know, Alan Mullally said it best: I've never fired a person, I've just helped people who've decided not to be here to move on faster.
Yeah, some really good tips there for Jenny. Let's move on to wealth then. Let's move on to this all important area. Now, Brad, who can become wealthy?
Is that a trick question?
Well, it kind of sounds like it is, doesn't it? But
anyone can become wealthy. No. Wealth is not, there's not the privileged few anymore, James. I know you guys are in England, but it's not. It's no longer the royalty is the only people allowed to be rich anymore. I think we got past that, didn't we?
Wikipedia statistics, you know.
Okay, let's re-ask the question. Who can choose to become wealthy?
That's a better
Anyone can choose to become wealthy. Who can become wealthy is anyone, right? Who can do it, who's willing to do it, who's willing to do the learning, the growth, and the understanding of it, who's willing to study money, study investing, study those things. Not that many people. So the Wikipedia statistics don't show who can become wealthy. It's who chose to become wealthy is what's in the Wikipedia statistics.
But that's the power of what you've just done. I mean, at several points during this session so far, you've posed the question that catalyzes instant deep thinking, you know, and you know that's one of them. It's like it is a choice. Then, I mean, what's the mind shift that people go through when they're going through that, Brad? Because you've seen hundreds of people do that, probably tens of thousands through you.
Yeah. I just had a guy text me the other day that his company's now worth 300 million, and it's like, and because he just bought a new car and he wanted to show me the new car, and he said, "Thanks for all that teaching." 20 years, actually 2005. So what's that? 18 years ago.
Richard Woods, isn't wealth? I mean, what's the difference between wealthy mindset and I'm just going to say average? I just don't want to put a different label on it.
There's poor, middle class, and rich when it comes to
what's the difference then?
Now let's define the difference between wealth and rich. Rich is money. Wealth is abundance of all. That's my definition anyway. So rich is financial, but wealth is health and time and friends, and you know the ability to enjoy wealth is different. There is a definite mindset that moves to wealth, but there's also a skill set. There's also actions that have to be done. So mindset is definitely a part of it. But if you don't have the skill set to negotiate the purchase of a piece of real estate, then you don't have that skill set, and you're not going to do it. You know, so years and years ago, actually, the photo just popped up the other day. I was down in Auckland, New Zealand, because there's a group of students down there. Ron teaches them, and I taught Ron many years ago how to buy a 2-bedroom apartment and turn it into a 3-bedroom apartment by just putting up walls. Basically, find something that had it was back in the olden days. They'd build a 2-bedroom apartment and it'd have a formal dining area, and no one uses a formal dining area anymore. So great, turn that into another bedroom. So it goes from a 2-bed, 2-bath into a 3-bed, 2-bath. And all of a sudden, you've increased the value of that property by about 25. In that particular market, it was about 28%. So now Ron keeps teaching that, and all of his students added together. When I was down there, it was that created $1 billion in assets amongst all the students. And I, as their patron, went down to celebrate that with them. And you know, you have to still do the work. You have to make the offers. You have to get the finance. You have to do all those things to build wealth. But what is wealth? If I was to give it a definition, it is making money while you're sleeping.
Is there such thing as passive income? Some people say, well, James, there's no real such thing as passive income.
Depends on the percentage of passivity.
Okay, go on, tell us more.
Well, if you have to show up to make an hourly wage, it's zero passive.
Yeah.
If you own a piece of real estate that you've owned for 30 years or 20 years or 15 years or 10 years or however long you've owned it and it's still making you money, It's probably a 1% active.
Yeah, get it.
So yeah, is there a 100% zero anything? No, I've still got to do tax returns on my properties, so I still have to once a year sign some papers.
I love it. It blows the skeptics away. Okay. What about, you said there the importance of learning, because if you haven't learned the skill, you ain't going to do, you're not going to learn, you can learn how to negotiate to buy a property. You're not going to go and buy a property. So how much is the shift, the mind shift, come with what you're reading, who you're hanging around, what you're consuming? How important is that to start moving into this wealth?
Well, the first thing, if you're going to become an investor, the first thing you invest in is knowledge.
Right.
If you're going to go and buy a business, if you're going to buy a business and you don't read my book on how to buy a business, that's just dumb. If you're going to buy a business and you don't read 10 books on how to buy a business, not smart. Invest in knowledge first, plan second. If I'm going to sell my business, should I attend Brad's workshop on how to sell a business? Yes. You met he's become a friend of mine now, James over there, James Circus, and he came to my thing on how to sell a business, and he walked off later. He goes, "Thank God I did that, because the multiple jumped from there to way up there when he sold."
I remember the multiple, Brad.
Yes.
It was 47.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, you can say it. There you go. But the point of it to me was that if he hadn't have learned that stuff, he would have sold it for a minuscule price relative to what it's worth. But he didn't know that. And that's where the first thing you invest in is knowledge base. Even just learning a market. If I'm going to buy real estate in a market, I'm going to spend 3 months driving around, looking at houses, interviewing real estate people, going out with real estate people, going and seeing it, become an expert in that marketplace before you invest. People better, I think Keith Cunningham said, got a hunch, bet a bunch. Hunch is wrong, bunch is gone. And if people go on a tip, they go on a gut feeling. No, investing is not gut feeling. Investing is build yourself a set of rules, pick your niche, and use your rules in your niche and make a thing. Wealth is about a plan. What I teach in 30X Wealth is to build a wealth plan. It's a business plan for wealth. This business that I own, called whatever it is, for you to be James V Enterprises or Vincent Family Enterprises, that business is about building wealth for the Vincent family. That's its job. Who are the shareholders of that business? You, your wife, your kids. You're all the shareholders of that business. Who works in that business? You, your wife, your kids. You have a board meeting every quarter with your kids. You share with them the wealth of the family. You teach them what you're investing in, what you're not investing in. This whole thing of don't talk about money around the dinner table, that is the dumbest thing ever. You should be with your kids discussing money, what you do with it, how you do it, what you invest in, why you're investing in it. My kids, when they're lucky enough to be set up with some money for their life, but they're not getting any when I die. I'm going to spend it all before I die. That's my goal. They get their inheritance early in life when they're kids so that they have to invest it. Yeah, go invest that stuff. Invest with me. I'll do it. What age should you start teaching your kids about business? Now. At my foundation, we start with kids at age 12, teaching them business in our foundation. If anyone has kids, actioncoachfoundation.org. Go there, sign your kids up for our YES program, the Young Entrepreneur Smart Start. Get them in there, get them learning how to build a business. We don't need to teach kids how to get a job. We need to teach kids how to give a job. We need to teach kids how to become employers, not employees. That will solve all of the financial problems out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, just what Brad said. Let's just capture that as a minute and all play that on repeat until we're making good choices, until we're committed to that future for ourselves. I love that. We will need to start wrapping up very, very shortly. I do have a question here. It's a really bold question. I'm really pleased that someone said it. This is Jamie Reynolds. And there's loads of people that's thinking this is where they are right now. Being a busy business owner, how do I create time to go and work on myself? What do you reckon, Brad?
Firstly, Jamie, great photo. She makes you look much better.
Let's get it back on.
Your question has one
whoa,
word.
whoa, Brad. He's got some muscles there, though.
Yeah, I know. He's looking healthy, looking healthy. Fit and healthy. That's what I teach my kids. It's not about anything other than fit and healthy. Can you just put the question back up? Because there's one word wrong in the question. That word create. You don't create time to work on yourself. You make time to work on yourself. It's a priority. Jimmy, you obviously go to the gym. You obviously make time to work out. Great. Make time to work on your head and your heart the same way you work on your muscles. Make time. Schedule it in your calendar. Put it in the diary. This is when I do work on me. Attend conferences that work on you, workshops, seminars. Get a coach that helps you work on you. I have a financial coach, and she takes me through my balance sheets and profit and losses every month. I have a business coach who asks me questions, the same set of questions about all my businesses every month. I have a personal coach that I meet with every 2 weeks, and he asks me questions about me, myself, and my brain. You know, working with him makes me focus. He gives me reading assignments. He makes me read books about me, about life, about relationships. Otherwise, I'd just read business and wealth books. But, you know, Doc Sid keeps me in line, that's for sure.
Incredibly powerful. I want to know what your biggest learnings have been today, folks. What's been your favorite bit? What are you going to take away with you? What's going to be the difference that you're going to make on the back of this session with Brad Sugars? Absolutely incredible. My favorite bit, by the way, Brad, well, so getting everybody's points, get them in the chat box. I want to put some up so Brad sees these before he goes. My favorite bit, 100%, was your presidential speech, by the way, on the wealth plan. That was pure emotion, but it spoke to everyone's heart. That did. It's like, you know, the kids, we're meeting every quarter. This is about our wealth plan. That's dumb if we don't do it. Amazing. I mean, I was going to say loads of other stuff, but that was the top trump card. My favorite bit.
You know, wealth is really easy, James. It really is. The simplest way to wealth, build a business that creates an asset value, live in a house that you pay off over time, or every 2 years, buy a crappy rundown house, spend 2 years fixing it up, sell it, move on, or keep it and rent it out and use the equity to buy another house and spend 2 years doing that. When you're young, if you're a young person, 18, 19, you should buy a crappy house, first one, get into it, whatever you can, help get your parents to help if you need it, but just get into a piece of real estate, you know, and I go back to real estate and why it's so important. Let's imagine your kid just turned 1. I buy my 1-year-old a house. I put in 20% deposit. See, what's the job of your business, James? This is why wealth is so important to business people. If you don't have somewhere to invest it, you won't make enough profit out of your business. Your business's job is to buy you a piece of real estate every so often. Maybe it's every 2 years. It's got to come up with a deposit for a house. Maybe it's every year. Maybe it's every quarter. Maybe it's every month. Your business's job is to come up with a profit, enough profit to buy a house. Once you got 20 homes, you're set for life. Once you've got 20 of them, you can do it with 10, but once you do 20, it's dead easy. So you buy that house, you put in 20%. Your kid's 1 year old. You put it on a 20-year mortgage. You put tenants in that house. What do the tenants do? They pay the mortgage. The tenants pay for 80% of your wealth. 80% of your wealth. Now, whether it goes up in value or not doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If someone pays off 80% of it, you've just got a 400% return on investment. When your kid turns 21, they own a house free and clear. Happy birthday.
Happy 21st birthday. It's a big one, the 21st. I'm going to read some of these out to you before you go. Hopefully we've got time.
I've got it right here on my screen, so I love them. They're great. Thank you.
All right. So amazing. Loved it all. Keep talking. This is Lucas. Look, your friend. Keep talking to my children about money and how to invest it. This is Linda. She's got a Ferrari F60, by the way, is Linda. Favorite bit. Success is simple, but not easy. Keep learning. You don't create time, you make time. Linda again, learning. Oh, she's corrected herself. My favorite bit, Talk about money at the dinner table. Be proud of that. If you set lowly goals, you cripple yourself from within. Gavin, biggest learning, do the actions, stop talking about them. Thank you so much. Always so many takeaways. Thank you very much. And I'm just going to, there's too many coming in. So let's just do this one as a.
Well, I'm going to head to the gym now, go and get a workout in, and then I'm going to have lunch with one of my buddies. So,
well, that was their favorite bit, Brad. What was your favorite bit today?
The reframing of the wording or the languaging of what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail to what would you do if you knew you would succeed? Just the reframing of that.
Yeah, you can't ask that question enough. I love it.
I think I'm going to do a whole video on that someday.
We'll bring you back to do just one episode just on that topic alone. Thank you very much on behalf of everybody here. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you lock in the learnings and you do something with what you've just learned from Brad Sugars. Thank you very much, Brad. Over and out.
Thanks, James.